So true.
Hey boys, we're live.
You said that we're live, Chase?
We are live on Facebook. Hold on, I'm getting us on Instagram.
So I can talk about you now. Everybody else will know what we deal with on a daily basis.
I don't know what you're talking about,
Mitch
actually.
and I are just discussing that pretty much anybody can do Chase's job. It's just that everybody has something more important to do than what Chase does.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if that's the nicest thing to say, Mitchy boy.
I don't think,
Sorry,
dude, honestly.
it's so true, Chase. You know it.
Yeah.
You know it.
What's really cool, though, is we can talk all this smack about him and everything that he does. He just loves it. I mean, look at right now.
He
He's
does.
just
He gets all
freaking.
fired
He's
up.
just laughing at himself. It's hilarious. I don't know.
Hey, you guys are in my office now, so watch what you say, Mitch.
What?
This is my office, so watch what you say.
No Chase?
right.
Hashtag no Chase? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in today. It is Tech Tuesday, so we're going to do some more board work, kind of go over some more geometry ideas to cover some questions that we've been getting on the KRX. Today's feed is strictly about how the KRX's geometry, suspension geometry, works. A lot of people have asked questions as to why does it have so much negative camber, and that's horrible, why would they do that? And maybe a lot of questions as to why I like the car a lot. So we can go over some of the reasons for those, and then at the end, hopefully you understand why negative camber gain throughout travel is a good thing. So we've got Chase behind the camera, so you guys yell at him as much as you can. And we've got Mitch helping out with questions, so you guys throw questions out, and he'll try and feed them to us. But do me a favor, let me go for about 5 minutes without interrupting so I can get through some of the stuff on the board. Behind me, what we've got going on right here is I got a chicken scratch going on for front suspension. So imagine if I can kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at. That's a tire. That's the frame. We're looking at the front of any car, basically, any UTV. This is an upper control arm, and this is a lower control arm coming out to the spindle holding this tire in place. All right, you guys got that? So what I want to show you is when you have a control arm system that's roughly an equal length, so from frame mount to spindle, and from frame mount to spindle, these are slightly different, but they're very close. This is almost exactly like every UTV in the market. As the system cycles or goes to droop the way I've drawn this tire comes out this way, upper arm, lower arm, or when it goes fully compressed, lower arm and upper arm. You can see that this tire travels in an arc. It follows the arc of the control arms, right? It is held vertical, so camber isn't really much changed through the system, but it does follow the arc. When you do that, this blue line that I've drawn on here is the center line of the tire at ride height. So when this tire is sitting here, that is the center line of that tire in space or on the ground, okay? When it droops, it cycles inward as the arc, control arm arc pulls it in, and the center of the tire comes inboard as much as 3 inches. Now on different cars, this measurement is different. Some are 2 inches, some are 3.5, some maybe even less, as we'll show you with the KRX. This width change in the tire on the ground is called track width scrub. Track width scrub is very important. There's a lot of scrubs in alignments and geometry, okay, but track width scrub, as the suspension droops out, you land the car, it scrubs wide, comes back up to the center line that we have drawn on the board at ride height, and when you hit a bump, it scrubs inward and has to scrub back out. This scrubbing is just like it sounds. The tire is scrubbing across the ground. And you can see this in some videos when a car goes through the whoops and the tire's drooped out and hitting another whoop and another whoop. It kicks dirt off the side of the tire sideways as the car's going at you. That scrub means that you are losing traction, that the tire is not biting on the ground, and if it was a rear tire, then the car doesn't accelerate very well. If it's a front tire, like we've drawn up here with front suspension, then the car does not turn very well. If you have a car with a lot of track width scrub, then, for instance, in a corner at like say 30 miles an hour and it's got some whoops in it, you're turning the wheel, it's going through the whoops, it's scrubbing on every single one of those whoops. The car, you turn and it pushes straight through the corner. The more you put more in it and it still doesn't turn. That's because the tires are losing traction as it scrubs through cycle. That's important to know as we go into the KRX suspension. Is there any questions that I can hit before I get to that?
No questions.
All right.
Although
Here.
Black Bear Roo, he did want to say he doesn't want any scrubs either, and I thought that sounded kind of like a country song.
TLC, actually, it's not country, I think, is what it is.
Yeah, TLC, yep.
Yeah. So, music trivia, there's more to it. All right. So, standard UTV, standard equal length arms. Let's go over here. This is representative of the KRX front suspension. The main difference that we're looking at when it comes to frame is this frame portion right here. That is roughly where the other control arm was mounted in this first drawing. So on a KRX, we're running an upper control arm that's much shorter compared to the lower arm. This unequal length system creates negative camber as it compresses, and it creates negative camber as it droops. The reason is that we're following an arc of an upper arm that's much shorter, and it comes inward quicker at the top, bringing the tire in, and as it droops, it comes inward quicker and brings the tire in at droop. Why is that good? People ask me, well, a negative camber in KRX looks like it must be a horribly designed car. It's got all kinds of camber. Well, it's actually really good. Watch this. Tire at ride height, center with that blue line, which is basically the same position on the ground at all times. When it droops out, it negative cambers. Take a look at that. The center line of the tire is in the same spot on the ground. It hasn't moved. Goes through cycle, comes up to the top, negative cambers in, still sitting on the same spot on the ground. That means that, for instance, on a KRX or any unequal system that's designed properly, you can have 0 track width scrub. So as that thing goes through its cycle, the bottom of the tire stays on the contact patch, no matter where it goes. That means that you always have traction. That means when you come to that same corner full of whoops and you turn the wheel, it turns instantly. There's no push through the corner. The tires are always touching the ground no matter where they are in the travel. They're not scrubbing sideways. This system driving straight at you in the whoops will not push any dirt off the sides of the tires. It'll just act perfect as it goes through. Another thing to keep in mind, you know how you guys jack the car up, whatever UTV you have, you jack it up. When you let it back on the ground, the car sits really high and you have to drive around the block to settle the suspension or jump on it. The reason is when you put it on the ground from the jack, the tires have to slide sideways 2 to 3 inches per side, total of 4 to 6 inches in width, and it's bound on the ground. So then you have to jump on the car to get it go, or drive it around the block to get it to settle. On a KRX front suspension that has negative camber gain, you would put this car on the ground and it would just go right to ride height. You would have no pinch, you'd have no settling at all because that contact patch is in the same spot on the ground the whole time. That is just one reason why I like the KRX design. That in and of itself makes the car super stable no matter what you're running through, whether it's small chop or whether it's big whoops. The car is always stuck to it. It's never jumping off the whoop sideways out of a corner. When you're going through the whoop straight, it doesn't get squirrely in the back as a lot of cars do. For instance, an X3, when it's fully drooped out, the rear tires are at least 8 inches narrower. And when you hit a bump, they push out sideways like crazy. There's a lot of videos on the net about rear tires pushing out on an X3. It's just part of the design. In a KRX, you'd never have that. Fully drooped to fully compressed, the tires in the same spot on the ground the whole time. Do you have any questions that I can hit?
No questions, but I got 2 things here. Little Jesse says he learns more here than in school.
Thank you, Jesse. That's very nice of you. Appreciate that.
Autopilot MT said, great explanation and drawing representation.
Cool. I'm glad you guys can see the difference on my chicken scratch sometimes when you try and draw all the travel, drooped, compressed, and overlay it. It looks like crap.
We still got a couple people joining too, so maybe we can do a little
wrap up
overview
on
of what
it.
we're doing.
Okay, if you guys just joined, we're talking about KRX geometry suspension design and why negative camber gain through cycle can be a really good thing because it stops all of the track width scrub. Track width scrub means no traction, that means no steering input, or it means no acceleration if it's in the rear. If you guys don't have anything, then I'm going to talk about rear.
I got one person wanting to go live here, Garrett 742, and then I actually have a really great question from Philip.
Awesome. Okay, Garrett, you on, buddy?
He's
Not yet.
waiting for him.
All right.
Do, 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 do.
There he is.
Garrett, what's going on, man?
How's it going, Garrett?
much. So I've been watching you guys' lives on YouTube, trying to catch up the last.
Hey Garrett, hang on just 1 second, buddy. Let me turn the volume up so I can hear you. Start the question over. What was it?
So my question is, I'm in the market for a new Can-Am, and do I wait for a 21 to come out, or should I just say screw it and buy a 20? I mean, is it worth waiting?
So I can't tell you what they're gonna throw on the new car.
No, I know that. It's just,
Yeah, I get in big trouble for that. Actually, I've already been called by people and said don't give hints. So,
okay.
but I can tell you that the new Can-Am isn't going to have any major geometry or frame changes.
Okay.
The other things that are coming on the car are cool, but I'm not sure if they're kind of like a game changer or not. The major thing I would tell you, and that I can talk about, is that the factories pretty much all shut down production because of COVID. And when they did that, all the dealers sold all the vehicles that were in warehouses, and the dealers are pretty much out of stock now. So when you do see the new Can-Am unveiled typically in July, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to even buy that car in November. They've got to ramp up production and get them going. You may not even see that car until the beginning of next year, or they might. They're definitely not building any more 2020s. It's going to be 21 or 22 because of the delay in production. So I'm not sure if you want to wait till January or February, which might end up happening.
Okay, yeah, I'm in Michigan, and there's like a lot of dealers, with everything going on, really haven't been cutting deals like they used to. So it's like I almost should have pulled the trigger, last spring or whatever before all this stuff happened. So
yeah, and it's not going to get any better out here. All the dealers are completely out, and a lot of dealers are traveling back east to pick up cars and bring them back here to sell them, and they're having to sell them for more than retail, but they're selling them. So it's just the quantity of cars to choose from isn't there, and the prices are going to go up.
Right, I understand that. So okay, maybe I'll just hang out and see what 21 has in store for it, and go from there.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for calling in. Give me a t-shirt size and a color you want, and Chase will send you something today.
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks, man.
Have a good one.
All right, Mitch, you had a good question. You said?
Phillips Racing asks, I have adjustable radius rods in our Turbo S 4-seat race car. Should I set them up with negative camber to account for full droop?
When you're tuning camber into a car, I personally like to see a maximum of -1 degree. I think in the rear, anywhere from 0 camber to -1 is about where I prefer it. I think the car drives really well there. You don't lose much traction with 1 degree, like kicked over maybe on the corner of the tire. So that's me. I would probably change it over and over and go drive the car since you guys are racing it. Maybe see if you like 2 degrees, but I don't think you're gonna. I think you're probably gonna be between half and -1 degree.
Rich Fortin, real quick. When changing ride height, how does it affect scrub radius? Do most side-by-sides have negative or positive scrub radius?
Ride height does not change scrub radius because scrub radius is determined by fixed points. That is the upper and lower ball joint at the spindle, and the imaginary line that's drawn through those 2 points where they meet to the bottom of the tire. That never changes no matter where you are in cycle. So ride height isn't going to affect scrub radius. What ride height will affect is as you raise the car, as this board is pointing out, the tires will get narrower. And so sitting at that ride height might be in a place where any little bump is actually a little bit of sideways scrub. That's not scrub radius, that's track width scrub. So you're really getting detailed and probably maybe splitting hairs at this point. I don't think that I would use that as a determining factor when you're setting your ride height. It's not going to be something you'll notice on either one very much. That brings up another thing. I get questions from engineers all the time, and honestly, engineers are all a bunch of wacky, detailed guys. I mean, I am one, but the questions that I get a lot are like on massive details. Like the last drawing we did, you didn't set the degree up. The degree was off a half a degree, and they're doing this from a video camera looking at a board. It's like sometimes the guys are just looking for something to complain about. Do me a favor, if you're that guy as an engineer, try not to look at some of the details. I am talking about overall ideas with this. Don't nitpick. Just look at the whole thing for me, okay? That's coming from another one of you.
I mean, you could have used a ruler on all this stuff, Justin.
Yeah, sorry, that's freehand. You get what you get. Don't complain.
Hashtag no chase straight edge.
What? See, I did actually use my monogrammed straight edge,
I need you
which
guys.
is also cardboard that's very crooked. So take that into account when you're talking details on this stuff. Anything else, or I'm gonna talk rear?
I got couple questions here. Do you want to? Let's go over the rear first, and then we'll go through
rear
some
suspension. Rear suspension. This is a view from the top of the KRX from above in a helicopter looking down on the rear suspension, okay? Rear tire, upper radius rod, lower radius rod, hub, trailing arm pivot, and we have a third link. Now, I'm not even sure what this link is called. We might have to coin a name for it right now. It's not really a toe link because it doesn't control toe. I would say this is actually a lower radius rod, and then one of these radius rods is a toe link because they're actually controlling toe. What's hard to see here is I've drawn this hub attached to the trailing arm. That is a pivot point. So as this arm and lower radius rod are a triangular cycling system that doesn't move, this hub pivots, and that's the toe. So this overall hub movement can control toe through cycle. If you remember any of the other videos we showed you on like a Turbo S or on any Razor, for instance, that you get a ton of toe change as you droop the system out, it toes out as much as 4 to 5 inches. With a KRX, toe is actually controlled by the radius rods as it cycles and keeps the tire perfectly straight as it cycles up and down. This is a shot of the rear suspension from behind the car. So literally looking through the rear bumper. This is the radius rod mounting plate on the back of the frame. On a KRX, the upper radius rod is shorter than the lower. This almost looks exactly like front A-arm design on the front. Well, that's because it acts very much the same. It does have a trailing arm going forward, so it does restrict some stuff, but the shorter upper and longer lower controls the negative camber gain and keeps this tire negative at the top and negative at the bottom, keeping the center of the tire in the same spot on the ground. This means that as you drive a KRX through the rough, that back tire is always in the same spot width-wise. It always has traction whether it's going through the rough stuff or not. And that's why you can put your foot in it and basically the engine doesn't ever rev up through the whoops, and it's always planted. Car fast through stuff sometimes can get skatey, especially in like an XP Pro. But on this, it does not, because the tire is in contact with the same spot of dirt width-wise at all times through cycle.
Steve0714 says, what's up,
Steve-O?
Justin, Chase, and Mitch? What's going on, buddy?
Thanks for tuning in today, Steve-O. Appreciate it very much.
What's up, Scuba Steve?
So Jeremy Williams, question, if you had to pick one for a 2020 double RRC, would you do springs or front sway bar?
I do spring kit first, and then I do the sway bar after that. Springs are going to make the car work amazing everywhere, rough. Anywhere you drive it, they're going to work better. Sway bar is going to make it turn better. So I would do the spring first, and then I would do sway bar. There to my right and to your left is a KRX. Well, what we've done is we've taken the springs off this car and just have it sitting on the shock bottomed out. So look at one thing on this. From the front of the car, take a look at those tires. See how they're negative cambered in? That's as much as 5 or 6 degrees negative camber. One thing you should look at though, that front tire and rear tire are almost exactly the same degree of negative camber. That's because they're touching the same spot from a width standpoint on the ground as the car cycles. Also, if you look from front to rear, you can tell that the toe change in the rear of the car compared to the front is next to none. It's not towed out like some other cars are. It's not towed in like some other cars are. That's because the control of toe through cycle on the rear geometry of this car is so good that they've got the toe set controlled throughout its total travel, just like in the front. How's it going, Ernie?
How's it going?
Another thing to take a look at this car is ground clearance. Look underneath. In a previous video, we showed you on an X3 that this is touching the ground on an X3. This has 3.5 inches of ground clearance all the way underneath this whole car. That ground clearance keeps you from bottoming out. It's also the way most of this stuff should be designed. Now, what Kawasaki had to do is, did they say this has 18 inches, Mitch, do you know?
I don't remember.
I forget what Kawasaki advertises, but I guarantee you it's less than everybody else. And the reason that they say they have, say, 18 or 20 when everybody else has got 24 is because they left 3 or 4 inches of ground clearance in the car when everybody else took it away, added it to the travel. So if this car has 20 inches advertised, if they wanted to kind of cheat like everybody else, they could get rid of that ground clearance and add 3.5 inches to the travel number and go around telling everybody they had 23.5 inches. But it's not usable, it shouldn't be done. So this is just another reason why I like a Kawasaki from a geometry standpoint. My only wish, and this is not a Kawi review, okay? We're not reviewing this car. I just like a lot of the things about it when it comes to the design. Somebody actually knew what they were doing, and it wouldn't surprise me if this was a trophy truck guy that Kawasaki hired. I haven't talked to him, I don't know who did it. But if you look at any videos of a really good trophy truck, you'll find that front tire negative cambered in at droop, and in the air negative cambered. They're doing the same thing as this Kawasaki is, trying to eliminate that sideways or track width scrub. So whoever did a good job on this Kawi, good job. Gotta give you my hat off to you. The only thing I wish this car had is a ton of horsepower and maybe a little bit more wheelbase. If it had another 10 inches on it, wheelbase wise for a 2-seater, then there wouldn't be any whoops that it really didn't care about from a timing standpoint. And if it had the horsepower to compete with all the other turbo cars, then it might actually convert me from where we're at to this car. They built it really well. You got any questions?
Yeah, Alliance Pump Guy asked, does the rear of the X3 tow in at full droop?
It's been a while since we cycled that. Do you remember? I think that it tows out at droop, it tows in compressed, and I think that it has about 2 inches of tow change throughout cycle, an inch at the bottom and an inch at the top. A Polaris will tow out drooped, it will tow in compressed, and it'll change 4 to 5 inches. So the tow control on a Can-Am is much better than the rest. Not quite as good as the Kawasaki's tow control in the back.
Teryx Adventures, does the HCR long travel kit for the KRX keep this camber through the full range of motion?
Yeah, what changes that, or what controls that, is the length of the upper arm compared to the lower. So, which is basically frame mounts and pivot points on the frame. So them HCR making a longer arm system isn't going to affect the positive qualities in the geometry of this car. It's going to have the same negative camber gains. Chase can't help himself.
He can't.
Chase has something to say.
I would just like to say, Alliance Pump Guy, he almost got you there. He pointed out himself, hey, be back here on Thursday, Alliance. We're going to try to stump him again.
What did he point out that made you so happy?
Just he almost stumped you, that you almost fumbled the ball. Fumbaruski.
Oh, on the toe of the car? Man, just to make sure I didn't get stumped, I would have gone over there and jacked up an X3 really quick.
He did say almost stumped him. Grasty, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Grasty YJ, I have a bad push on turn in on my Max X3 on 32-inch tires. Should I get a sway bar? You guys are doing springs and revalve for me.
I would do a front bar on a Max. The push is definitely because the front sway bar is not stiff enough for that car. And you do our front bar and it'll control it more. It will not come in and dive on that front corner as you turn in, which is where the push is coming from. More bar, more better, faster corner speeds.
Got Darius looking to go live.
Oh, Darius.
He declined.
Out of here.
Mark L2103, when will the Can-Am Maverick Sport 1000R shock package be released?
We were driving that this morning.
We videoed that this morning too.
So, I can't even say that car's name yet. I don't have it committed to memory. Mitch, one more time?
Can-Am Maverick XRC Sport 1000R.
All right, if you guys don't know what that is, narrower trail Can-Am. V-twin, A-arm rear suspension, A-arm front. Kind of a cute little thing with 30-inch tires on it, factory. And we've been doing some testing on that car quite a bit. As a matter of fact, this morning we were out testing the car for about 2 hours before it got 100 degrees. And if you do not believe me, then let's walk over here. There is your car that you're asking about, and guess what? It has a spring kit on it, and we are in the middle of working on valving. So to answer your question, dual rate spring kits are going to be available in 2 days. We just filmed the video for it as soon as Chase actually does his job. So hold on a second. Hey Chase, when is the video for this spring kit going to be done, which will...
Judging by the moon, the stars, and the planets, I would say roughly, schematically, a couple weeks?
No. Wrong answer.
48 hours.
There we go. Much, much better. Thank you, Chase. All right, so as soon as he's got the video done, we'll have the spring kits available. You can buy those. And shock internals are going to be about another month.
The Allen's Magana. I'm building a race Can-Am. I was wondering if you guys offered racer support to go out and tune.
So typically we don't go out and tune with the racers. The reason is that we really have a hard time finding the time. So the answer, I should say no, but we have done it, and we do it sometimes. Submit your racer media packet to savino@shocktherapist.com, and we will go over it with you and see if there's something we can do. If you're local and it's easy, then we might be able to pull that off.
We had Juan from South America again. He said he's got his X3 XRS RR. Do I install the TLS kit right away or wait until the holes get wallered out? Oh, I lost it, sorry.
Okay, do not wait to install your TLS, do it right away. If you wait for the holes to get wallered out, you can shear the bolt and you gotta have a short trip, and it's gonna be a long way home without a tow link on the back. So do it right away.
Tony557.
Tony,
who is the drummer for Government Mule, asking for a friend?
Government Mule? How does anyone even know what that band is, much less the drummer? I think that's an unfair question.
Yeah, okay, we got an actual question here. All right. How does the rear end compare to the XX XTR, and are you guys doing anything more on the XX?
So on a XX, it's a trailing arm only. It has no radius rods, and when you do trailing arm like that, which would be like a Class 10 or a Class 1 car for the most part, it has tow change. There's nothing you can do about it. I don't know how much is in that car. Probably 2 or 3 inches of tow change is what's in a XX. It also has a lot of track width scrub. So from just the standpoint of what we're talking about today, with overall width change, then a XX is going to have a decent amount. It will not have as much as a Can-Am. It's going to be better than that, but it's not going to be as good as a Cowie.
BW Dub, yes, our limit straps will work with the shocks flipped. Rock Warrior 33, do you guys have any love for a 2015 Maverick 1000 Max?
Yeah, we've got all kinds of kits for an OG Maverick. As a matter of fact, we just did a couple of those earlier this week and one last week. We've got spring kits and we've got internals. We can make a huge change in that car from where it is stock to where when we're done in ride quality. So absolutely, we do like the car. Yeah, I mean, that's it for that car pretty much. Hey, if you guys don't have any more questions, you got about 10 seconds to throw one more out. If there are no more questions, then I'm gonna go back to work and I'm gonna stop talking. I talk too much as it is. As we're taking a look at a Honda that we are knocking out today. We do quite a few of these.
We got IQS going on this thing, Justin.
And this one, according to Chase, gets IQS, so badass. This car is going to end up riding so much better than it did stock, and he's going to be able to control the shock compression on the fly with this car. So, looking forward to him driving it and telling everybody what he thinks. He's going to be really happy. Actually, one more thing, Chase. Film, would you please? You guys take a look at radius rods and tie rods, piles and piles and piles. Okay, these are not all the components that we have in stock. These are just parts that we are about to throw out there at a discount because they're scratch and dent. These parts have something on them that we are rejecting. Like that spot right there where the anodizing was scratched. We're not selling that. We're going to have all of these parts, I think, somewhere around the 20% off range as a scratch and dent sale. So tune in. Maybe we'll have all this set up for Thursday's feed when we're talking, and we'll kind of have a list of these parts that are on the site as scratch and dents. And remember, we had off-road cars, man. The second you bolt these things to it, they're going to get scratched anyway, but we're not going to sell one to you that is scratched.
Grease
so
Monkey
look out for that.
3406 RC2s on XP Turbo, worth it over reworked stockers.
XP Turbo would have Foxes.
Or walkers if it's
It could
newer.
have either, right? If you have walkers on the car, I think that the RC2s are the way to go, and you can sell your walkers and recover a lot of the money, and you're going to have a much more adjustable shock that's going to take a lot more abuse without fading, and it's going to be a lot more plush without bottoming out. So if you have walkers, I would say RC2s. If you have Fox internal bypasses, no, I think I'd probably work the bypasses.
Last question from Rich Fortin. Realistically, can track with scrub be fixed?
Track with scrub cannot be fixed unless you are changing the upper control arm or upper radius rod length, shortening it from the factory setup. So that means you're making frame mounts and new upper arms. And as I said in the past, that is a giant pain in the ass, and I don't think that it would be worth doing. I think maybe just buy a car in the future that's got that fixed if it's something that's really important to you.
Okay, last one, promise.
Last question.
SMP underscore 1982, stock Pro XP with 33s. Is it good to go?
Stock XP Pro with 33s.
33s.
Yeah, I mean, as far as if the car is good to go or not, then what I would say with a 33, I would do a clutch kit. Certainly do a clutch kit and keep the belt life on it and get your acceleration back when you went to that bigger tire. As far as the rest of the car is concerned, I don't think you're going to have the thing fall apart. You're not going to have things wear out quickly because of a 33. That car is pretty strong. So, but I'm always going to go for suspension mods. Obviously, that's what we do. I'm going to tell you to do spring kit and do internals. The car will wake up. But clutch kit, and I don't think anything's going to fall off, so you're good to go. We good, Mitch? Good. Out. So, thank you guys for tuning in for Tech Tuesday. Hopefully, I didn't make it too complicated, and you guys understand a little bit about track with scrub and how stable it can make a car. If you have any other questions about parts, give us a call, 623-217-4959. And if you want to buy any of our parts, go to our website, shocktherapist.com. You guys have a great week.
Track with scrub. I'm going to make that into a country sound.